Here's a tool that a lot of us should be using because it is really helpful and really good, but most of us don't even know it exists. And I only came across this because I accidentally did something when I was working on a video, and then afterwards I was just wanting to know exactly how I did it, and I was just searching and messing around, just looking through the settings, how I did it. And it's something that is really good because it saves you a lot of time and it is a very professional tool to use. So for this tutorial, we're going to take a look at how to transform images into the perspective of the main image that we're wanting to apply it to. That's enough talking, let's go ahead and actually use this tool. So you want to, just like always, get yourself the image, left click and drag it into Photoshop. You can either do it that way or go to File and Open, that works just the same. And just like always, you want to hold Alt or Option key on your keyboard and then scroll up with your scroll wheel. If you don't have a mouse, then don't worry about it. You can use the zoom tool, which is right here. And we also want to make sure that the background is a layer, so you just want to left click on the background to turn this into a layer. Now, Photoshop already has a way of controlling the perspective of an image, and I will show you how to do it right now. It is a lot quicker, but sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to get used to. So let's change this building into the VerticDesigns headquarters. Now, first of all, we need to get rid of the text. We don't really need this, so we're going to use the Healing Brush tool. If you right click on it and go to the Healing Brush tool, you can go ahead and press Alt or hold Alt and then get yourself a sample of the texture and then just erase this right here, since we don't need it. The further away the better, and we're going to remove it like so. We're also going to finish up with the clone tool and then just sharpen the edge a little bit more, so you can't even tell that there was right in there in the first place. So next up, we're going to get ourselves the text tool, and you just want to left click and drag yourself a box, and we're going to type in Vertic HQ or any text that you want to type into here, and then make sure it's a black color so it's visible, since this is a white background. And then you just want to put it on a bigger number, so let's just increase the size to, let's say, 129. Drag the corners back in, make sure you get all the letters, and then you want to go on the main tool and then press Ctrl T, move this into this area right here. In order to be able to actually do this, you need to first of all convert this text layer into a smart object. So you want to right click on it and then go to Convert Smart Object. This will allow us to edit the perspective of the text. Press Ctrl T now, you'll notice things are a little bit more different. So to use this tool, all you got to do is hold Ctrl or Command if you're on a Mac, and then this will change to a different cursor. This will change it into a white cursor. This basically means that you can now edit the perspective of this text right here, or the image, should I say. So as you can see, we can go ahead and get ourselves the first point there. You can hold Control and Shift at the same time, and then this will lock it down like so. So let's say we want to move it over to here, and then we want to go ahead and move it down here. You want to hold Control, move it to the top. You can use the building as guideline. So as you can see, I'm using the windows. And once you're happy with everything, you can also downscale this. So if you drag the corners in, it'll make the text smaller. So as you can see, it looks like it is on the building. And then double left click to apply it. But we also want to right click on it, go to blending options, and then in here, we're going to get ourselves a drop shadow, and then put yours to the same settings as me. So have it on a gray color, move it to a 130 for the angle, have it on 70, let's say 77 opacity, and then for the contour, you just simply want to edit these points like so. Or you can get yourself this one right here, click on it, and then just increase that, and then press OK. So as you can see, it looks like it is on the building. Before we start using Vanishing Point, we need to first of all make the street signs pop out, and we need to separate them from the actual background. So all you got to do is really simple, get yourself a selection tool, and then just simply zoom in with your Alt or Option key. And then we're going to be using, let's say, the pen tool. And then you want to left click, hold left side of the mouse to get yourself a curved point, and then just normally left click if you want to get yourself a straight line. So we're just going to select this right here. If you wanted some other ways that are much quicker, you can use quick selection tool. That is a lot quicker than this. but I prefer just to be a lot more accurate with the edges. It just makes it look a lot sharper. Even the pen tool is really simple to get used to. It is just normally left click for a straight line, and then you hold the mouse for a curved line. And also you want to hold Alt and then left click on it so it stops it from duplicating that curved line. And then we just want to also select a little bit at the bottom and then go back to the very first one. So now that we've got ourselves a little selection, you just want to go to the top here, selection, make sure it's on 0 for the feather, and then press Ctrl J on your keyboard, and then this will separate it from your main background. We're going to hold spacebar, move around, and then go to the second one, and do the same for this one. We're going to start from the bottom on this one, and then go on your main layer and press Ctrl J. And we've now separated the lampposts. So as you can see, we have them separate. Right, so let's actually use Vanishing Point now, because we've been talking so much and using all the other options. But before we actually do this, you need to make sure you create yourself a new layer. And the reason for this is because if you do it on your main one, we won't be able to edit it, and that is going to be a lot more difficult. Also, another thing is you need to prepare yourself for what you are about to do. And what I mean by this is, if you're going to change this building, and let's say we're going to change the glass to a more warehouse texture, we need to get ourselves that image first. So you need to left click and drag it into a separate area, or you can drop it in the same one. It doesn't make much of a difference. Once you've done that, left click on the lock, right click on it, and convert smart object. The reason why we're doing this is because you can now press Ctrl and A, and then press Ctrl and C. Or you can go to Edit, and then go over to Copy, and then this will copy it to Clipboard. Now, the reason why we're doing it like this is because once you're in Vanishing Point, you cannot add the image unless you've copied it, like we have done right now. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we select Layer 3, which is the one above it, and then you want to go over to Filter, and then go down to Vanishing Point. Or you can press Alt, Ctrl and V, and then that will get you to Vanishing Point. So the first tool that we're going to be using is the panel tool. We need to first of all create ourselves a panel, which will then apply things to it. So it is the second tool, and all you got to do is left click to create yourself a point. Now, if you're struggling to see the corners of the perspective, so for example, the glass right here, you can always hold X, and then this will zoom in to where your cursor is. And then this just makes it easier. So you want to left click, once again, hold X, click on that corner, get yourself another point down here. And then finally, on the very last one, you just want to try your best to make it look realistic. Now, once you've created it, you will get yourself a grid, and it will be blue. You have 3 different colors. You have blue, yellow, and then red. Red means that the perspective isn't great, so let's just mess about with this and I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see, that is turned to red. That means it's not a very good perspective. You need to edit it and make it look a lot better. You have orange, which is okay. It's saying, yeah, it's decent. But blue is the best one to have because that one is more realistic. So you've probably noticed you have yourself a grid. If you want to change the grid, you can always go right at the top here. Change this from 100 to bigger or smaller. You can always press Ctrl and Z to undo, just like always. So this is a normal feature. You can still do that. And you have the selection tool. You have clone or the stamp tool. And you have the brush tool, the transform, eyedropper, ruler, the freehand tool, and then the zoom tool. Now let's say you're not looking to edit in this right here, you just want to render it to Photoshop. You can always go to these options right here and then render grids to Photoshop. So if you click this and then press OK, you'll just simply have the grid on its own. As you can see, the grid is by itself. So if we get ourselves a solid color, you can see the grid right there. And you can always edit this if you wanted to, so you can right click on it, go to blending options, and then in here you can just simply go over to color overlay and then change it to whatever color you prefer. And as you can see, because I closed it down, it has saved the panel of it. Now another thing with this option right here is if you wanted to, you can export the grids too. So you can export to DXF or 3Ds. 3Ds is more of image, location, camera angle, and so much more. and then DXF is if you wanted the grid, let's say. Right, that's quite a lot of it explaining. Let's actually use this. Now, remember when we copied it over to clipboard? Well, now all you got to do is press Ctrl and V, and then this will paste it into your vanishing point. And we want to use the transform tool, which is right here, or you can press T. And then you also want to hold shift and then drag the corners in. The reason for this is so we maintain the aspect ratio. So we're just going to hold shift and then downscale this. And to actually apply it to the panel, all you got to do is just drag it over, and then this will apply it once you've got it to here. So as you can see, it's now applied it. But we can change the size of it. We want it a little bit smaller. I'm quite happy with that. That is the first one done. Now let's say we wanted to add another one. We're going to go back to create a panel, so the second tool, and then we're going to do the same for the second side. So we're going to put this one right about here. This one's a little bit more difficult because we have this area right here where it's curved, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a guess where it might be. So I'm going to guess it's right about here, and then of course back to the first one right there. And then once again, press Ctrl and V, paste yourself another image or the same one, and then holding shift, downscale this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stretch it out like so. Let's say we want to add ourselves some paint onto this bit right here. Go back to the create panel, hold X, get yourself a point, get yourself another point. With the brush tool, it's basically the same, but all you could do is get yourself a color. So let's say we wanted to paint it in a nice orange color. We would just select the color right here, or you can simply use the eyedropper and just copy some textures or color. So just like normal, you can always use the end square bracket and the other square bracket to make it larger or smaller, or you can edit the size in here, the dimension. And then all you do is just left click and then paint it onto here, and as you can see, it honors the perspective of it. Now sometimes I have noticed some bugs, so if you do go over it, it will still be visible, so you have to be careful with this one. And there we go. Now let's say we want a different color, so let's say we have a white stripe in the middle. We're going to change the size, make it smaller. You can left click, hold shift, and then left click again to copy it over to the other side. So once you're happy with everything and you want to edit the rest of the image, all you got to do is press OK, and then this will apply it to that new layer that you've just created. So if you have a look at it, this is our new layer. Now, just like I mentioned before, we're going to fix this bit right here where the building is more curved. You want to turn down the opacity to about 45 or anything lower, and then you just want to get yourself the pen tool, and then we're going to fix up this bit right here. So you just want to select it. We're gonna left click and drag it out to curve the line. You want to hold Alt, click on the edge of it, go around it, go back to selection, set it to 0, go back to the main layer that you had your image on, change this back to 100%, and then get yourself a mask. But if your mask is like this, it's the other way around, all you got to do is press Ctrl and I, and then this will invert it. So at the moment it is looking really good, but let's say we wanted to add some extras, for example some windows. Now I've created myself a little texture right here, so you just want to do the same as last time. You just want to right click on it and go to convert smart object, and then once you've got it as a smart object, you want to press Ctrl and A, and then press Ctrl and C. So we're going to go back to the main layer, and then you also want to make sure that you create yourself another separate new layer. So just like last time, go to filter and then go to vanishing point, and then this will remember everything that you created last time. And just like last time, press Ctrl and V to paste your image, and this is what you call a floating image. We're going to go over to the transform tool, and then once again hold shift to maintain the aspect ratio, and then just scale this down. We're going to want it to right about there, and then you just want to move it over to here. And then if you wanted to, let's say you want to make it more thinner, you just drag these in. Another great thing to remember is if you hold Control and then drag this out, you can just copy yourself another image. But the problem is this is just moving everywhere. We want it on the same line. So if you press Ctrl and Z to undo, and this time you can hold Control and Shift at the same time, or you can press Command and Shift if you're on a Mac, and then you just want to drag this over. This has got yourself a nice copy that is on the same lines. But if you're someone like me who is a perfectionist and you want to make sure that every gap between is exactly the same size, this is when the ruler comes in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in just to see it a little bit better, and then we're going to get ourselves the ruler, and then we're going to measure the gap between these two. 1.12 and it is 0.8, and we can left click and then move this over to the second one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the transform tool, and then we're going to go back to the last one, and then we're going to get ourselves one last one and move this one over to here. Now let's say your window is actually the opposite. Let's say you've got something at the bottom that should be at the top, or something on the left side that should be over to the right. So these two buttons, flip, we'll do it vertically, and then flop, we'll do it horizontally. Now you don't exactly have to use flip and flop. Let's say for whatever reason you don't want to use it, then you just want to hold shift and then drag the corners, and then this will just lock it. So you can flip it like this or rotate it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to zoom back out, so you can always right click on here and then fit to view. Also, another thing is, if you wanted to move one image from this side over to that side, you just move it in between. There is an option that lets you turn this off and on. So if this is annoying for you, you can turn it off. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and press OK, and then this will apply it onto my image. Now the only problem is, you just need to make sure that this is on top of this one. So we've applied the textures, but let's say we've got something more difficult. For example, this bit right here where it's curved. So we pretty much want to get ourselves the very last texture, which is this one, and we're going to left click and drag it onto the screen. Turn down the opacity so we can see through it. And now that you've done that, you want to go to edit, go down to transform, and then go to wrap transform. And pretty much what you want to do is you want to drag these corners inward. Right, so I'm happy with this, and once you're happy with everything, you can go ahead and press this little tick right here to apply it, and then we're going to turn the opacity back to 100%. Another great thing about Vanishing Point is once you've created yourself a grid, you can also hold control and then drag the corner of this outwards, and then this will continue on creating more panels. And that is pretty much it. That is how you use Vanishing Point. I have gone over pretty much all of the tools except from the clone tool. Now the clone tool is the same as normal, so just like we used it before, but you can use it on the perspective of the image, so on the panel. But anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you thought of the video. If you're new, then go ahead and press subscribe. Let's see if we can get to 50k or even 100 would be amazing. 1k likes, if we can do that, that would be great. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Bye.